Good morning. Good morning. Give a second for people to join. Morning, Jay. Morning, Lyra. Good morning, iPhone 2. Patrick, Kathy, Javier. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining here today. We're going to get started in just a couple seconds. Begin to bring yourself to this moment here. Take a couple breaths in and let it out. And if you're not driving, feel free to close your eyes and tap into the here and now. And as you take your breaths in, let it fill your body. With each breath out, becoming more present to the eternity of this moment. With each breath in, breathing in love, and with every breath out, relaxing just a little bit more. Your shoulders relax, relaxing your jaws. And I want you to picture a color that represents love. And as you breathe in, that air is love. In your mind's eye, envision the color of this loving air go through your nose to your lungs, to the bottom of your belly, and just take a couple more breaths in, letting that beautiful color touch all areas of you, fill you up. Wherever you may having some pains or stuck energies, know that love heals all. Anything that love touches is healed immediately. And relax into this moment. Whatever you're challenged with, whatever is going on in your life, we're going to take a pause. And the reflection of today is that whatever your conflicts may be, whatever's going on in your life, it has nothing to do with your destiny. Everything you've done up to this point Anything you may judge yourself for is irrelevant to this moment and to destiny. God has put in all of us a light that cannot be put out. And that light is love. That love will always bring us deeper into our calling. It will always call us to love more. We don't have to be afraid that maybe we didn't take the opportunity. Because if it's your calling, it will keep calling you. And no matter the ups and downs and how intense things are, this light in you will always be calling you. And although conflicts come in many forms, they are temporary. It is but a blip in the grand scheme of existence of the universe. Just like a seed knows to grow into a tree, no matter what you do, this love will always unfold. When the season is right, and that's not up to you, you will blossom. Love will reign over you, and you will remember why you are here. And with this clarity, our only job and our only function is to extend this remembering to others. Life isn't that complicated. And no matter what your conflicts are, what challenges you may be facing today, who you may be challenged with, it does not matter. You and all your brothers and sisters are on a journey to wake up. Heaven waits for all of us. So I want you just for a couple seconds here to bring to your mind whatever is challenging you, whoever is challenging you, any situation, any person. And know that your judgments Your judgments do not see 100% of the picture, and your judgments is, imagine a dark color that hides love, hides your own love to others and to yourself. It does not give people the space to show up as loving. It doesn't give space for the Holy Spirit to teach you. I heard an amazing saying yesterday that in any scenario, regardless if somebody cuts you off or somebody is trafficking children or someone in politics isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, the government, the police, religious institutions, that you can be 100% certain that anything you judge, you do not have all the facts. And so as we remove the darkness of judgment, we allow the light of love to be extended. And as we believe in people, they show up greater. As we believe in conflicts and the situations in our life, it reveals its purpose and its teachings. And you can relax, and you are safe. But it's up to you. And so this morning here, I want to set the intentions and the prayer that whatever conversations arise here, that it will serve the greater good, serve the reunion of the whole. And we don't have to create any grand miracles or do anything big. Just in our minds, healing our own judgments and our own hatred, we bring peace to the world. So start with your relationships. Start with the people that you interact with on a daily basis. Start with the stranger you will meet in the grocery store or at the conference. And now you know. You've always known. And take a couple more breaths in as we conclude this opening. and say goodbye to all the thoughts that came during this first couple minutes and say thank you. And we'll begin to return to this call. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, good morning. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for hanging around, and for those of you guys that are alive for that, and for everyone that is with us here on Zoom. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'll open it up today with where we left off last week. And last week we left off with, um, our connection to Source and our connection to God. And we were talking about the well, the well in which we we call for our patience, our love, the well in which we can hold space for others and create a container for those around us, the well in which we call upon our kindness and our compassion, our contribution to the whole, our giving mindset, kindness, joy. And oftentimes we connect ourselves to that well and we try to give and refill the well through our own endeavors and our own journeys in this world. And we talked about connecting the well to a much greater source in which it never empties. Right? Because when we attach it to ourselves, sometimes we're like, oh man, it's getting low. Right? My energy, and I'm speaking into the energy that a lot of people are, you know, that a lot of people talk about, is the draining of energy, this well, your energy. And if we attach it to God or to something that is much, much greater, it flows forever and you never get drained. And so that's the source, that's the connection that we, as separated brothers and sisters, the human beings, need to remember, is that that connection is always there. But sometimes we're like, I need the credit. I need the acknowledgments. I need the rewards. I want to be the giver. I want to be acknowledged for giving. So we attach our own selves to the well, and we think that we are the ones that fill and empty this well. See, what the course says is that as we give, receiving happens at the same time. And the well is always being filled. It's kind of like this magical well in which you take energy out of it, and the moment you do, it is refilled. How can we live our life like this? How can we remember in each moment that nothing can possibly drain our energy or take from us? Because we are all part of a whole. Every single one of us, everything on this planet, part of one ecosystem, one ocean. Thanks, Mama. Yeah, I'm getting over my little sickness. So we were talking about how um, the droplet of water is the ocean, but the ocean is not the drop of water. And we left off somewhere around that, maybe last week, or that's what I remember as our last conversation. And the reason for that is the drop of water is an individualized piece of the ocean, right? So God is not us, but we are God. We are of God. We are part of the whole, we are part of it. The drop of water is a part of the ocean. Every drop of water containing within it everything that is the ocean. But only if it remembers that it isn't separate. And so for us, remembering that we are not separate from each other and that there is, if we look, if we're willing to look, we will always see similarities. And from similarities, kindness, compassion, understanding, gratitude begins to take place of what was once judgment, fear, insecurities, attacks. And yeah, I wanted to open up with where we left off last week, and if anybody wants to jump in or share anything where we want to go today, feel free to hop in, or I will share about a powerful interview that I had yesterday. Going once. Okay. Well, yesterday I had the great pleasure of interviewing Paul Hutchinson, who is the executive producer of Sound of Freedom, and he is portrayed as Pablo in the movie, where Tim Ballard came and asked them to support and fund the missions to rescue children. And the interview was great, but the connection that Paul and I made was definitely brother seeing brother, light seeing light. And even his wife, Vanessa, I could tell in the corner, was recognizing it. All right, Jason, I'll get to you in 1 second. And the interview that we had, we talked a lot about. I let him go on and do his spiel about, going down and his whole story. I mean, he probably shared it 100 times on a lot of different podcasts, where he was a multi-billionaire. His real estate fund was $40 billion, and he retired from that 10 years ago to go down to go down to South America and rescue children that was being trafficked. So his stories are intense, and I'm sure, no matter how much he explains to me of or shares what he went through down there, there's nothing that I can gauge it with, right? I can only imagine. But we started talking about healing the world. How do we do it? Right? Not from fixing the symptoms, because he realized also that every 20 children that he saved created a vacuum and a demand for it to happen even more. And that's why the numbers never decreased. It actually increased from the time that he was down there. And so the modality now that he's looking at is all the different healing centers that are in the world. And when we dug deeper into what that is, most of our Purple Eagle tribe is already doing it. Our Sacred Valley tribe in Peru is already doing it. And it's through plant medicines. So I purposely let that conversation be the very last 5 to 10 minutes of our podcast. So, when that gets released, everyone can check it out. I won't spoil it, but there will be a second interview fully on that conversation. And so we're talking about going to Peru together. We're talking about going to Costa Rica together. And maybe he'll be joining us in some other capacities and other dimensions. But and what I want to speak into about that is what I've said a lot about some of the modalities that are out there, and it's being shared a lot more. People are realizing the power of psilocybin, sassafras, and all of those other medicines that accelerate the speed in which we can heal ourselves. That we don't have to let our past and the traumas dictate who we are today and what we do today. Now, I think those are important. Those modalities are important, but they are fleeting also. You will have a powerful experience, but without some sort of daily practice, without a community to hold you accountable, it is hard to sustain. The matrix, the drift is strong. Our society does not encourage critical and free, liberated thinking. And it's so funny because I had a conversation with another friend who I'm gonna bring on to all my calls at some point. He is the most interesting person that I've met in a really long time. And he said that, the government and the SEC does not care when the rich makes money with the rich. And that's like the 3%. They're like, yeah, you guys do whatever you want. There's no regulations, no nothing. But as soon as you get into the rich trying to make money with the poor or the middle class or the other 97%, then they're like, whoa, now you're stepping in our territory. Right? We don't really want that to happen. We want them to follow the plan, be the driving engine of society that they've created, right? Which is to work, get your W-2 income, don't make too much noise, put your money into 401k, into IRAs, and then we promise that when you retire, you'll have some money. But how crazy is it to put $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of your hard-earned money into something for 30, 40 years and only to leave with maybe double that amount if you're lucky? It's insane that we've accepted this as our retirement, as our lives. And so a huge part of my passion is teaching and educating. And so I don't have to do anything grand. I just need to do what's right around me. And right around me is Las Vegas, is where there is a homeless problem. Now, just like Paul dealing with child trafficking, the more you fight the symptom itself, you lose sight of the actual cause, the root of it. And it's the same thing with our lives. The more we just deal with the symptom of things and don't go to the root of the problem, what's causing it. Okay, and I'll tell you that the Course says that the root of all the problems is in your thought. That's where the root is. But we go back to the world, the physical world. So back in Vegas, there's a homeless problem. And one of the causes is children coming out of foster care when they're 18, and the system teaches them a skill to get a job. This is the solution. Okay, you're taught a skill so that you can go get a job. And when the person that is probably teaching them the skill to get a job hates their job, probably hates to have to work 9 to 5, and we're going to teach other people to do that. It's like there's just something wrong with our cycle of teaching, and our schools too. It's like we teach people what we think is the right thing to teach. And there's so much of that going on, is everyone's teaching some sort of concept and not from experience. Because if people taught from experience, they probably will not be teaching you a skill to go get a job. Be teaching more bigger picture mindset stuff that it requires for you to be an entrepreneur, to think like an entrepreneur. And that's my opinion. So what I want to do is we're going to privately fund a 6 to 8 unit property, and we'll double the rooms up, and we'll have people submit applications to, when they finish when they have to leave the foster homes, that they can come here. And the only requirement is that they have to attend the seminars, the educational things about how to be successful, how to be wealthy, how to use all the wealth management tools that are out there, different ways of thinking, so that they can decide what they want to do. And that there's mentors and people with connections behind them to help them. Right? I want to be an interruption to their experience of life, which is there is no safety, there is no security of place to live, that they're always on the move. Nobody really cares about them. The government doesn't care about them. Nobody's really got their back. They think it's them versus the world. The more you go into it's me versus the world, the more sick you become, because you become isolated. And this is why these calls that I do is a reminder that nobody is alone, that you are not alone. And that every one of us that gets touched with the message or the calling here goes out, calls, and supports others. If you take, and this is what Paul shared with me last night, if you just touched the life of 2 people drastically for a whole year, and that's all you did, and you changed their life forever, and they go out and do it to 2 people the following year, okay, those 2 do to 2, that means that's 6, right? 6 people now for a whole nother year. Then those 6 went out and did for 2, and then 2, and then 2, and when you go 33 years down the road, 8 billion people's lives would have been touched. You do that in 33 years. And that's if only you wanted to drastically affect and impact the life of 2 people. And everybody's committed to doing that. That's not a lot. Right? Think about it. For all of us, if we decide, okay, this year, I just need to go and make an impact, truly be a giver, be compassionate, be kind, be gentle, be loving as much as I can to 2 people. Teach them. And teach them to teach. And this is the only thing you have to do. Impact 2 people this year. If everybody went on this movement to impact and touch the lives of 2 people this year, in 33 years, and that's only if there's one journey going like this, one leg. But if everybody committed to it, if all of us here, 15 people committed to doing that, we cut that time frame down drastically. So it's very simple. But see, the thing is, the opposite is happening. When you teach from a place of fear, when you teach things that people should be afraid of, you now create more fear. Doesn't matter what form it looks like. You can say, oh, be careful of this person. Oh, this person's an asshole. Every time that you do that, that's what you're teaching. There is no gray line. You're either teaching love or you're going to be teaching fear. And so Paul and I discussed this topic, that there is no in between. There is no gray line. When we watch Sound of Freedom, and those of you guys that have watched it, you either leave with more hope and clarity or you leave with fear. Nothing in between. And you're either going to tell people that the world is unsafe and that we should kill people. We should kill these people. They should not exist. Or you're going to find hope. You're going to find your calling, that you can do something. And it's funny because at the end of the movie, they actually tell you this isn't a movie about creating fear. But a lot of people leave that movie with more fear about the world, more judgments about the world. And so this is now recognizing cause and effect. The cause of all of this, all these conflicts to even exist in this world, begins with our own conflict and our own judgments on others. By not creating a safe space for somebody who is hurt to be able to speak up because of our harsh judgments, we create a world that can't do that. And so what happens when somebody is hurt? When somebody is physically abused, mentally, emotionally, sexually abused, and they can't share that because our world judges, because each one of us judges. What ends up happening is that energy comes out sideways. There's going to be anger towards the world for that it isn't safe. And so at best, they are angry. At worst, they are completely compromised and will traffic humans and traffic children and torture and murder and sexually, emotionally, physically abuse others. So hurt people, heal people, heal people. There is nothing in between. Don't give yourself and don't kid yourself that there is a gray, that certain times calls for this and other times calls for that. Even if there was, you can't even there's no possible way for you to know with absolute certainty that you know which one is called for right now. God can, but none of us can. Right? When somebody cuts you off while they're driving or they run a red light and you have a immediate judgment of, wow, what an asshole, or wow, this person can't drive, or whatever, all the negative things that come out. All it takes is knowing one piece of the story and your perception can change. Maybe this person is rushing to the hospital. See, in any scenario that you can see that you encounter, Anything that happens, there is a scenario in which you would operate and do the same. There's a book that Love and I are reading, and the beginning says that every one of us is capable of murder. Every one of us. And we are not that far from it. The right conversation, the right scenario, the right environment, the right influence, and we will do it. So how do we fix that for ourselves? How do we fix that in the world? See, first is to know that that you are capable of anything that anybody is capable of doing. And begin the compassion process. So whoever you may have judgment against today, yeah. Marlene, I actually so I've had a personal experience like that. So I think the same thing also, and it's funny. So when I'm like, oh my God, this person's probably about to shit himself. So it's funny to me. See, I have zero judgments when people do that. We were driving yesterday, and my wife were in the car, and someone like slowly rolled up to the light, and as it turned red, they sped up and went through the red light. And she's like, wow, like the hard judgments came out, right? But that judgment hurts nothing but yourself. Every time you don't interrupt your own judgment and you allow yourself to judge others, it poisons your mind and it hurts you. No attack does not come back to you. Oh boy. We're not going to talk about that, Marlene. uh, so, yeah, any thoughts as we in the conversation that we're having this morning?
First of all, Alex, I just want to say you're the only person I've heard that publicly would share something like that. And that day I was like laughing and in disbelief. But I remember I think it was before a game night, right, with Legends. So it wasn't that public, but it was somehow public. So,
Well, now you just made it even more public.
so I just realized, I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good.
But anyhow, what you were just sharing right now, it's interesting because I this morning I read an article that said something about that talk about Alzheimer's and dementia and how this is becoming like I don't know, I think it's about 40% of all the seniors in the US will develop some kind of dementia. So they were actually this study. I know that the University of Arizona got involved with it, and they said like if you want to add to those possibilities, let's say, to add to that percentage, just stay insulated and don't move your body. So the community, once again, is like it's so important, more important than what we initially think about. It's like, yeah, well, socializing is good for you. No, it's crucial for you. And then when you were sharing about the hurt other people, I remember there is a book of Gabor Mate, something about normal. So it's a book that talks about how toxic really our society has become. And the funny part is we just see it so normal that no one is questioning it, anymore. It's like, yes, you go through the motions and you just live your life that way. It's called the myth of normal, by the way. that book. And that's why he said it's not people that are sick, it's our society that is sick, and which is as a result of living in it without questioning anything, we just become sick. It's normal. It's like a byproduct. It's not people themselves, but the whole society that we really should start rethinking about. But of course, as a as a citizen, one person deal, it can feel overwhelming. So
Mhm,
the answer, once again, you go to a community, right? So
mhm.
that's all that is coming to me, and I just want to share. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that share. Anybody else want to share anything from that? Lack of proper diet and exercise. Look, when you believe that you have been hurt, like when you actually believe, of course you can transcend it. Not all hurt people, but let's just look at it at the very, very individualized, like with ourselves. When we feel hurt, we can't help but lash out. We can't help but project onto others. There's people that when I meet somebody, sometimes I hear from somebody else like, "Oh, be careful of this person." I'm like, "Why?" Right? Obviously, it's a projection of something. It is not this person. Right? So like why do we have the tendency to feel like we have to say that? "Oh, be careful of this area or that area." Just because we had an experience, right? Instead of looking at who we were being, who I was being to have this happen, I blame an outside environment. And then from there, I pinpoint the person or the thing to blame. And then I go and tell others and I spread it. Right. The second you say something like that, it spreads poison into someone's mind. Right. If I was to meet, let's say me and Marlou are gonna meet, and Lyra goes, "Oh, be careful of meeting Marlou. Oh my God. She did this and that." If I didn't have the the practice and the discipline of being open all the time. Like, let me just be open to it, and understanding that everybody has their own projections. And I just allowed Lyra's voice to come in and feel. Now, before I meet Marlou, I'm already looking for that. If I'm already looking for, it, no doubt I will find it. Right. So allow people and allow things to bloom on their own, and know that our projections and our own judgments are always wrong. Because we never have the full picture when we judge. Never. I don't care what you think you know, we never know the full picture. And if we don't, then all we're doing is robbing somebody else from having the ability to see something or to show up differently. Right. So, um, yeah. So, teachings from the Course help us remember. And the reason why we give our power over so much is because we've been conditioned and trained to do that. We've been conditioned and trained to look outside and say, wow, this person or this thing, if I had it, I would be happy. If I don't have it, I won't be happy. In that, we just gave everything away, all of our powers. True happiness and true fulfillment really comes from growth and clarity. When we have clarity inside and we're like, oh, wow, I worked through this and this was on the other side, that fulfillment, that happiness is lasting in our growth. But every time we compare ourselves to others, every time we look to other things outside of our own heart and our own self for happiness, we give our power away just little by little. And it will eat you. Kept unchecked, it will eat you, and you'll wonder why your life is so uneventful, unexciting, why you're a victim to all the people in your life. So owning that power back. So, and the thing that the Course teaches is that we create idols out of all these things. And back in the day, I used to tell myself, I'm like, we made God of things that are not God. So money, cars, houses, status, real estate, whatever you want to call it. We make God out of things that are not. And so the Course says that behind the search for every idol lies the yearning for completion. Now, we're looking for completion in places that don't complete us. It actually separates us. Wholeness has no form because it is unlimited. To seek a special person or a thing to add to you to make yourself complete can only mean that you believe some form is missing. And by finding this, you will achieve completion in a form you like. So by adding all these things, this is the purpose of an idol, that you will not look beyond it to the source of the belief that you are incomplete. See, we look to other things to complete us. One, the reason why we would even look for things to complete us is because we yearn completion. That means completion, the recognition of completion, is the most important thing that we are searching for. And we will not find it by having other people agree with us. We will not find it by having the government do something that we think they should do. We will not find it if our kids do what we want them to do. We will not find it through there. We will not find it if an investment deal goes the way I want it to go. We will not find it in all that. Right? So one, there's a yearning for completion, so recognizing that that is what we really want. And two, when we seek for something outside, we must also believe that we are incomplete without it. And so by looking and adding those things and making those things complete us and believing that it does, we actually reinforce the fact that we are incomplete and that we are not perfect and whole. And then that there comes the tiny mad idea that I need to be something other than what I already am. And so all the hurt and all the pain starts to come from that. Because all you're doing is reinforcing that I'm incomplete. That's why I need this. That's why I need that. That's why I have to look like this. And as you have that hurt, that idea, you will project and attack others. Because the ego believes that if you have something that you don't want, you just got to give it away. You have to shed it. You have to give it to somebody else. That's why bullies feel a need to bully, because there's an insecurity there. Oftentimes, bullies bully because they're being bullied at home. They're being abandoned and neglected at home. There's an incompletion in them. So the belief that there is something missing and incomplete with us is really the main source, the main problem. That takes practice and discipline every day to remember that we don't really need anything to be happy. That there is an awareness. And the moment that we are aware that perhaps I am already whole and complete, that awareness will bring fulfillment, bring lasting peace, bring happiness, bring clarity. And when you are there, you're not going to project and you're not going to attack others. Because you see it. You see the need to be, or you see the seeking of completion in others. Right? So there's either one or two things that's happening. One, you recognize that seeking for these things outside must mean we have a seeking for completion. So you can see that in others. Oh, they're just seeking for love. They're seeking for completion. Right? There's a compassion to it, no matter what they do. Or you will judge, you will attack based on whatever you are lacking from the external world. All right, so to say hurt people creates judgment and further isolation to those who buy into the suggestion in interacting with others. Creates judgment and further isolation to those who buy into this. I don't really know what that means.
Alex?
Yes.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know,
iPhone 2 is now Lenka. Hey.
yeah. Anytime to see that. Isn't it J? I saw it was Jaye. I just want to make sure I'm pronouncing.
It's Jay.
Because I read that, and the way that I interpreted that was we're judging the person who's so-called during the perpetrating, right? And so that in itself is judgment. And I was pondering that. I was really pondering that because, there's a situation where my son's a really good friend, really like very masculine young man, even in middle school, just a loudmouth and a troublemaker and just kind of a bully and all the kind of troublemaker boys, these are all labels, but including my son, surrounded him like he was the king. And then in ninth grade, he really started bullying my son. And it was a very traumatic time. And he would call my son, in the high school class lunchroom, faggot, gay boy. Like, it was really problematic. And 2 years later, he comes fully out as transgender. And so that whole time, this young man was playing this role and then was projecting on my son because he was grappling with something inside of him. And I judged him the entire time. Of course, this is somebody who's causing my son to really have a hard time. And now I'm meeting him with full compassion and I understand, but it doesn't change the fact at the time I was very judgmental and I told my son, hurting people hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
He's bullying for a reason. I promise you there's something in him. He's bullying himself. And but it was a judgment. So it's a really interesting comment that Jay made that I got to process for a while. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, thanks. So it's when we say that hurt people, like not from a place of judging them, from a place of projection, it's just going to happen no matter what. What you make real in your mind, you will see in the world and you will project out there. So could we have met that bully with compassion from the start? Yes, because if you can meet that bully with compassion and you can justify their actions right now because you are tapping into compassion, that means you could have done it before also. Because here's the thing. If you knew the information you know now, then you could have met with compassion. And if we met this person with compassion, maybe we give the safe space to have that happen. To have the bullying stop. But because on some level, this kid didn't feel safe to share that he's trying to come out, he's projecting it. See, the ego's like, if you have hurt, get rid of it by giving it to others. Because the giving and receiving is not taught to happen at the same time. See, if we knew with absolute like conviction that when I give something to somebody, it makes it bigger for me, that I receive more of it. If that was real for us, then we would be like, yeah, I don't want to bully. See, then that's a projection of I don't want to bully. Because all I'm going to do is hurt myself more. Right? So the giving and receiving is such a big part to understand. And actually, Paul and I were talking about this yesterday too. Through his charity work, he actually went, so he was a dropout from he didn't have all the degrees and didn't climb the corporate ladder like what we thought people should do to become a manager, the managing partner of a $40 billion fund. Most people that get to that place did not climb the ladder. Okay, they had to have made some sort of connection that was deeper than the achievements you had leading up to that. So he was sharing a story that he did this charity work. He put in his own money and they flew to somewhere in South Asia and did some sort of charity work down there, and not like human, some kind of charitable work, right? And when he came back, the second he landed, two people texted him, and his income multiplied by a lot. And he didn't go to do that work because he thought it would have gotten this, but it's just, this is how the world gives back to us. This is how the world actually works. The more you give, the more you get. It just works like that because giving and receiving happens together. Now, if we think the more we give, we're draining our well, we're draining our bank accounts, we're draining our energy, then we will always give from a place of what's in it for me later. How do I fill this back up later? And so learning that whatever we project out comes back to us. Projection makes the perception. When we project, that's how we perceive the world. It's not, oh, all these things are happening out here and I can get rid of my stuff, because this is what we believe. The bully is bullying somebody because there's a pain that they want to get rid of. There's a guilt, there's a shaming. Now, if we can be conscious and aware enough that every day when we talk to somebody, when we engage with someone, the things that come out of our mouth, the words, is it going to inflict pain? Is it going to add to shame, guilt, fear, not enoughness? Right? Because it does. A lot of people are unconscious of that, including myself. I've said things that love had to be like, wow, that was it wasn't very oh my god, what word am I looking for? I'm losing words right now. I don't know, like compassionate, I guess we'll call it for now. Right? Like I wasn't very aware of what that could have caused, because I use words that I just, to me it doesn't really mean anything, but to somebody else it could. Oh, I know. So sometimes I'll call like women chicks, like not even thinking anything. I'm like, oh, that chick over there. And I'm like, oh crap. Like I didn't know that would even be anything that would cause anything, right? So just kind of becoming more aware of those things all the time within ourselves. You know, that's just one example. I probably use stuff all the time. So, yeah, that's what I mean when I say kind of hurt people, but we can go deeper into it. Let's see. True environment is an overlooked key factor. I think if we can just focus on whether we add to like shame, guilt, fear, like if we can just focus that when we speak, do we add to that on any level? Right? Like if we call somebody stupid, like we have no idea how that would even impact, right? Somebody. So sometimes it's better to kind of keep our judgments to ourselves and know that that's just my own stuff. Right? They're showing me. And that's what the course says. We can be shown through all the triggers and all the people and all the situations if we're willing. But we have to create the space. Yeah, words are powerful and labels also. But for us to recognize too, because even that in itself is a projection. Because words fall so short of the truth. And when we can realize, you know, sometimes this is actually the reason why a lot of the wars happen between religions, because they're using different words. They're using different words to describe the same thing. And then we go to war over words. But from ourselves, the only thing that we can keep accountable is ourselves. Can we see, can we not debate over words and look at the words or the essence beyond the words? Right? You know, people are like, oh, you know, we're Christians. That's why. I never said I was Christian, but I'm also not going to debate it because I know what you mean. Right? Like we both believe in God and we have some sort of practice. That's great. You know, faith-based, faith-driven. But I'm also, and then somebody says that, oh, you're not Christian or you're Catholic. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to debate over if I'm Christian or Catholic. Right? I don't really even know what the true difference is, but whatever. I focus on the similarities of it all. So, yeah, it's to recognize the oneness in everything, right? And let's see, Jason earlier said, one second, my bad, Jason. I got to get back to your question. I said I would. Where'd it go? How do you move through challenges and not let it drain your energy? Yeah, so this is kind of like the conversation we've had about boundaries. Marlene. Yeah, this is kind of like the conversation we had about boundaries, but boundaries are made up by us. You know, like what drains us? Does it have to? Is it true that it will drain you every time? You know, a lot of times we just have to ask ourselves, like, is it true what I believe? Like, is it really true? So you can move through the challenges. There's two ways to do it. Okay, one is you don't have to be in the vicinity of it. If it's causing fear, if it's causing more anxiety, then temporarily being further away from it actually works. It's what the Course says, we give magic to things in this world. Now, the practice for you is to recognize that this challenge is actually a blessing. This challenge is a gift. When you start to see a challenge as a gift or a blessing or a teaching, you no longer see it as draining. You may actually see it as adding. It may add to your growth, add to your recognition of completion. All right. Does that support you, Jason? And we can talk more about that. You can ask more questions on there if you like. Now, the Course says that just like in the beginning of the call, I said when things call you and when it's your calling, it will always call you. It will keep calling. But so will the lessons and the teachings. The teachings and the lessons will keep calling because it is part of the same. And each time it will become bigger, right? It's going to cost more for ignoring. Oh my God, I'm losing so many words this morning. But it becomes the stakes get higher. Right? If you choose to ignore your calling, the stakes become higher and the calling becomes louder. And maybe it looks like you losing your job. Maybe it looks like something happens. Something extreme begins to happen when you choose not to listen to your calling. And we are stubborn. We as human beings are stubborn as heck. We will continue to play into the same story, and the lessons keep coming and the teachings keep coming, and we're like, no, it's not me, it's not this, it's this person. And we give the power away and we blame other things. And then we're like, why me? Why is it always me? Why does it keep happening to me? Well, that's God speaking as loud as he can. And you're not listening. You're deflecting. That can be the portal to awakening. Yeah, and this is just a constant reminder for us, right? Reminder for us to be kind with ourselves, to be kind with all these things that are happening around us too. Because as conflicts and these types of things arise, it isn't permanent, it is temporary. Destiny is what God has put in us. Destiny is an embryo turning to a baby. Destiny is a seed growing into a flower. It's going to do it. Plants, animals, they do these things and they do what they're meant to do without question. They have zero resistance to it. Human beings create resistances to their own destiny. We create all the problems. We always try to fight against the current. It's so funny. Imagine the craziest is, there's and this just came to my mind because I don't know who said it, but in China, they used to wrap women's feet so tight so that it stays small. And they can't even walk. Like fighting against growth, fighting against of what you're naturally becoming. And we do this every day. We can't embrace where we're at. We always want to be somewhere else. So the challenge of our life becomes, can we enjoy what we have now in the pursuit of what we want? Because that is where the key to happiness is going to be. Can you enjoy the right now? The journey. Knowing, yes, I want those things, but can I enjoy the journey now and be grateful for everything now in the pursuit of those things? And that takes practice, because in the pursuit of things, our mind is never in the present. Our mind isn't with who's here with us now. Okay, so go ahead. Oh, Brother B's here with us. All right, go ahead, Marlene. I can't really hear you. You're like muffled. You might have your finger by the speaker or something. If you're on your phone.
No, it's I was with my AirPods and maybe they are not very good then.
Oh.
I was just wondering, do you then believe in destiny? That's like a big question for me because I'm in between like, do we create our reality with our thoughts and then our habits and then that become my life, or is this really like a destiny that I just have to fulfill?
Can you change the fact that you will not die someday? Physically.
Of course not. But no, I'm talking about like the life that we get to live right now. Is it a destiny in it, or do I create it? Co-create it, let's say.
The only thing you can create is your relationship to the things that happen. Because they're going to happen. There will be so many things that happen in your life that is unexplainable. The meetings, the people, the money that just lands, the opportunity that just lands in front of you. A lot of it will be unexplainable. Right? So for example, I'm going to just share one example here. Is it me doing something? Is this person doing something? So just remember this. So 2 days ago, I was at an event, hundreds of people. Okay. And I meet one lady who I just happened to be standing next to. And I'm like, hey, what do you do? She's like, I'm a photographer. I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually in need of a photographer right now. I'm calling for one here in Vegas. And I'm like, do you know Paul Hutchinson? And she's like, stop it. Literally a day or two before, she goes, I just prayed for somebody to take me in this direction and show me that I'm supposed to meet this guy. Because 2 years ago, she wrote a letter to Paul Hutchinson or wrote a letter and was giving it to somebody to give to him. And it never happened. And she still had this like business plan, this letter for 2 years. And 2 days before that, before we met, she made a prayer about it, that please show me where this goes, where I'm supposed to go with this. And boom, we meet. Like, is this what is that? I don't know what that is, right? Like, how does that happen? Is it because it's already happened that it would even be in her mind? And then now, even more than that, the reason why she even knows who Paul Hutchinson is because Tim Ballard was with Ever Matson at a conference when she was 12. If you guys don't know who Ever Matson is, Ever Matson's a little girl that I was working with and helped raise money to feed America. And she's all over my Instagram and stuff. The fact that she even knew to reach out and wanted to reach out to Paul Hutchinson was because of Ever. And she goes, do you know Ever Matson? I'm like, oh, interesting. You will wonder if I know Ever Matson. And that day or the day right before, I posted a video with Ever. We collabed on a video. Now, how does that even happen? Did I have to do something to make that happen? Right? It's like, what kind of coincidence? Who's making that happen? Or is it the fact that we would even want to do these things because we can sense that it's already happened? That was meant to happen. See, sometimes we have glimpses into the future, and what we even want, we don't know why we want it. And I say this too, I'm always amazed at the fact that there are healers and doctors and people that are in the, first line, all of those people, they would even want to do that. From the beginning of time, people were in caves and somebody decided, I'm going to be the healer of all the other cavemen. And then it just keeps going. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. Doesn't matter how third world country or world is, there's doctors. There's always doctors. People from here will say, I'm going to go over there and be a doctor and heal those people. That's not like that's specific to those people. I may have that desire to heal, but I don't have the desire to be a doctor. There is nothing in me that thinks at any point in my life that I was going to be a doctor, because there was no interest in that for me. There's no passion, no thoughts about it. Now, do I have to go and make something happen so I can make an impact like a doctor does in a surgery room or surgeon room, whatever, in the OR, operating room? No, you can impact in other ways. But you have to figure out, like, what is that path and what is that journey for you? What is your passion? Healing's going to happen no matter what. Healing comes with clarity, with you being very clear about where you're going and what you're doing. And as you live fully and deeply into that calling, other people will feel their own calling as well. They're like, man, I can't believe you are willing to go and do that. Like, you're following your dreams, you're following your passion. We love when people are doing that. And we love when people are successful when they follow their passion and their dreams. Because it gives us hope that maybe I don't need to do this 9-to-5 game. That maybe I don't have to do what society tells me to do. And so that's how I heal. But I don't need to resist any of it. I'm like, oh, look, I'm supposed to meet this person. Doesn't matter how big they are and who they are. You know, I'm just following who God's putting in front of me. I don't need to fight it. You know, Marlene. So yeah, I don't know. Comparing back to like plants, like animals and things that kind of just follow. The only resistance, the only free will that we have to dictate our future is we can dictate our relationship to what's going on right now. How can I experience my life right now is the only leverage, the only play that you have. And the more you feel happy, grateful, joyful, giving, the more of that just comes back into your life. The more you fight it, the more life fights with you. Because you can't shift or change your destiny. See, the destiny is that every one of us will wake up. Or you can call die. Right? That's destiny right there. Along the way, where we go and what we blossom into, we can play with that. Yeah, it's more accepting of where you're going. It's like, ooh, I'm turning into the analogy that we had. I'm turning into a what's it called? A sunflower, right? I'm growing into a sunflower. That's your destiny. And then the sunflower kind of dies and withers away. There it is. There's the cycle. Now, along the way, you can either say, yes, I will lean more into the sunfloweriness of me, or I'm going to just fight and want to be a rose the whole time. Now, you can fight all you want, but you're going to turn into a sunflower. You can resist all you want. You're going to turn into a sunflower. So can you have fun? Can you enjoy the way going there? You can either be a very, very successful sunflower, or you can just keep fighting and still be a sunflower anyways. And a rose. A rose is going to turn into a rose seed. And the rose seed's like, no, I don't want to be a rose. I want to be a human being. Like it's the conflict, the resistance to who we're meant to be. Just lean into it. And the way that the Course says we find it is through joy. When you can laugh about something, when you're excited and passionate about something, that is, Harley, watch out, girl. That is your, just stepping into that, surrendering into it. Does that support Marlene? Oh, you're quiet again, but I get it. It's the iPod's fault or the AirPod. Okay, so as we are wrapping up here, what other thoughts do we have? What final thoughts do we have? Okay, I will read real quick to wrap this up. Marion Williamson's A Year in Miracles. And I've never read this one before. I flipped open to this and I just, kind of, it's an interesting one. I don't know why it went to this, but I've never even seen it in here. So day 125 for reflection on cancer as a metaphor. I guess because we were just doing the sunflower metaphor. Marianne's like, I'm going to drop my metaphor. On cancer as a metaphor. A cancer cell is a cell that has gone insane. Oh, I see where she's going with this. It has disconnected from its natural intelligence. It has forgotten that it's here to collaborate with other cells. That it exists to serve the healthy function of the system of which it is part. It has separated from the organ to which nature has assigned it, gathering other cells as sick as it is to build its own kingdom in a world apart. This false kingdom, this malignant tumor, seeks to preserve itself by growing more of itself. Thus, it threatens not only its host, but also itself. You guys are catching Marianne's drift here? This is not simply a description of cells in the body. It is a description of the emotional malignancy of the human race, which has separated itself from our natural intelligence. This emotional malignancy threatens the whole of humanity, just as the disease of cancer threatens one body. Our disease is the false belief that we are separate from each other, from God, and from the rest of life, bearing no sense of responsibility or love for anyone or anything other than the selected beneficiaries of our kindness. This distortion of our true sense of self, is a cancer that will lead to destruction of our species. It tempts us to forget our function as collaborators with others in promoting the healthy functioning of the whole of which we are all a part. It will be healed in our bodies and in the world as we return to our natural selves. On cancer as a metaphor. So that's really a great metaphor right there. That when we think ourselves as separate, we are cancerous to the world. See, we go and we look to the problems and the pains and the hurts, and we isolate ourselves, and we look for allies to reproduce more of us that are separate. Sup, Jason? Sup, Ernesto? So just as we do this in the world and it threatens the whole, a cancer cell is one that operates just like that. So think about how a cancer cell operates, and then think about how we operate kind of like it sometimes. And it's because the cancer cell, and us has forgotten the natural intelligence, the natural function of who it is that we are, what we're meant to be doing here. And the only thing that we're meant to be doing is collaborating to serve the whole. When the cancer cell remembers that the cell is meant to play a specific important role to the whole, it is healed. And so it is from this metaphor that we all be healed. Okay, so much blessings to everybody, and I will be flying to New Jersey and New York So if anybody is in New York, New Jersey, love to catch up. And then I will be officiating a wedding on Saturday. So much blessings to everybody. We will talk soon, and stay tuned for the That Changed My Life episode with Paul Hutchinson coming soon. Bye, everyone. See you later.